So, so the reality of the situation is, I was plugging away at WrestleMania 22, and I thought that the first thing I thought was that it's a mistake for me not to be recording. And that's why I stepped back and I was like, you know what? Let's fire up Streamlabs, let's get to recording, and let's talk about what's going on at WrestleMania tonight. So, the first thing I would just want to mention is this segment with Steve Austin and Paul Heyman. It was my mistake because fact of the matter is Paul Heyman was not supposed to be here. Paul Heyman was supposed to be sent on a vacation, sent away, gone. He was just gone, out of here. Vamoose, finished, finito, out of the way. Just for a couple months, just to get him off television, just to send him away. And after WrestleMania, he will do that. But the reason why I used him on WrestleMania is because I didn't want to have it where Paul is going to be pissed off at me for not being used on WrestleMania. So that's why I booked him at WrestleMania, because I didn't want him to be pissed at me for not being used at WrestleMania. Uh, looking at it, attrition. Looking at it, we probably will be able to do a 10 woman battle royal. I also have announcers that need to be booked on the pre-show because I want to avoid having as many people as possible pissed off at me, because that's how it normally goes when it comes to WrestleMania, where 90% of the time I have that many people that are pissed off at me. I have that many people that are pissed off at me that pay-per-views like this usually end up in a bad state because of the fact that I have a shit ton of people pissed off at me. But we'll get to going through the show probably after what I already have booked. But right now we're just going to bump into what's next. And what's next, for the first time ever, and I mean that by I have never booked Sting versus The Undertaker, where I did not take a year to go through the process of booking these guys in a rivalry. This was booked from Royal Rumble, after Royal Rumble with Sting on SmackDown. It was booked through the month of February and the month of March, and that's it. It's not just going to be one match, it's going to be multiple matches, but the fact of the matter is, Sting and The Undertaker have never been booked in a match like this when I was in charge, where where it wasn't a year build. Simple as that. I've never had it with these guys where it hasn't been a year build. You know what I mean? No, not going to lie, Gene. I'm sore. I'm tired. But last year, I wasn't here. And this is why I worked so damn hard. Because this year, I am here. This year, I'm a champion. This year, I am defending my title at WrestleMania. I'm actually going to check that because I don't know that he hasn't. But I also think how I have it set up. I should be okay. The Naturals actually competed at the pre-show, but you could tell the Giant Baba Memorial show, but you could tell that somebody's been a busy man because Chase Stevens has been one of the most frequently used guys since the start of the year. And Chase has been somebody that I've really pushed since I got him, because he met one requirement that I had, and that was have above a certain amount of charisma because of what I wanted to do at the time that I signed him in 2004. And that went a different way because of how successful he was with Evolution. And that just stemmed with a feud with Evolution. And I just never booked him as a jobber. I just never booked him as an enhancement guy. I always booked him as, I always booked him as a guy I could depend on. And then last year, I started looking at it as, well, if I have heat and velocity, why not use heat and velocity as actual shows? Like shows for people like Chase Stevens, like Guido, like Eddie Edwards, to establish them as stars. Show off their potential. And Chase showed off his potential in the feud with Eddie Edwards last year when he was also fighting with Chris Benoit. Um, oh yeah, Chase was in a pre-show battle royal last year at WrestleMania 21, and he wasn't even working for me. He wasn't even working for me 2 years ago at WrestleMania 20. So it's a little nutty cuckoo that Chase is in the position that he's in. It's a little nutty cuckoo that Chase is in the position that he's in because I've never built somebody like this. I've never built somebody like this where I even got him to the point like the amount of satisfaction you feel like I feel getting Chase Stevens to the point. I know it's random that it's Chase Stevens, but the fact that I got him to a point where Scotty Tuhati, who was high 50s, low 60s, would put him over. The amount of satisfaction that was there. I mean, like I don't you don't get the amount of like excitement that Chase Stevens is now rising up the card, that TJP is rising up the card, that Eddie Edwards is rising up the card, that I actually have people that were unimportant rising to recognizable, and I actually think that Chase Stevens may be rising a little bit ahead, but that's just me. The two world title matches tonight are Edge and Randy Orton again for the WWE World Heavyweight Title, and Kurt Angle versus Chris Jericho for the WWE Championship. Last year, I missed most of the year with an injury. Now, I'm challenging for the world title at WrestleMania. What a business we have that I am able to do this. So we're going to have quite a gap in between. We're going to have quite a gap in between the world title matches because either it's going to be Dusty and Dupree in the women's match, or it's going to be the tag team match with. It's going to be both the tag team matches. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to remember this time because the last time I booked and actually had it, there was no, there was no satisfaction. I'm actually going to throw Corny at ringside for this matchup. Booker T and Jeff Hardy. I get the SmackDown announcers. I'll do Michael Cole and Lawler. That's fine. You know what? I'll do Michael Cole and Taz for that because Lawler and Ross get Lawler and JR get what's it called? Lawler and JR get Hogan and Michaels, so it's only fair that Michael Cole and Taz would get Sting and Taker. TJP was taken under the wing of Rey Mysterio last year. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be. I planted the seeds around WrestleMania. I gotta take my phone to the fucking Apple store. But um I planted the seeds around WrestleMania and that Rey Mysterio was going to start mentoring TJP because it was supposed to establish where Eddie Guerrero was going to turn heel and feud with Rey Mysterio. Chavo was going to turn. That was going to set up a year-long rivalry with Eddie and Rey. The Guerreros against Mysterio, where Rey was going to end up winning the world title and defeating Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie left WWE to go to CMLL because CMLL stole him, and that changed everything. Benoit ended up getting stolen and moved on to New Japan. That was supposed to be a lengthy thing with TJP, Eddie, and Rey Mysterio against Eddie Edwards and Chris Benoit, but Benoit is gone, which I kind of count my blessings for because it was always awkward booking Chris Benoit. But either way, now Rey Mysterio and TJP are the tag team champions because I want to break up the Dudley Boys and split up the Dudleys in the draft. And I put Rey and TJ in the tag team division to give me a babyface tag team in the tag team division to replace the Dudleys, to allow me to put piece together the Dudleys in the tag team division. I split the Dudleys from the tag team division because initially, listen to this. The plan was to have Spike Dudley team up with either Devon or Bubba and have the remaining Dudley brother, go and split up from either way, Bubba and Devon split up in the draft. Spike was brought in to team with the person that stayed on SmackDown. But Spike tore his rotator cuff in a 6-man tag team match, and now Spike's missing the remainder of the year, so that concept is out. So now I needed another tag team to replace the Dudleys if I still wanted to split them up, because the idea was to split up the Dudleys. How can I miss you if you don't go away? I know the Dudleys are better used as a tag team. I know that. But the fact of the matter is, to establish other tag teams, you split up the Dudley Boys and you you send them in different directions. And the fact of the matter is, that's what I did. That's what I did, or that's what I tried to do. And the Dudleys are accounted for in the draft. The draft is actually going to take place on Raw tomorrow, where I do the draft before the show because it's a lot easier. But also, I'm going to establish NXT as a third brand, and I'm probably going to bring back a B show to allow me to use talent that is on Raw and SmackDown on the B show, because I do have my own network. So I'm going to probably either bring in NXT on my own network or bring in a B show on my own network to allow for that to take place, because I got all my developmentals on my own network. Stampede, OVW, and Cyberspace Wrestling are all on my own network. I think that should be okay. I could be wrong, but I think that should be okay. Made the wrong decision. But maybe you won't. I'm hesitant to put one of the world title matches here. Ha. I got it. Borrow. I know that Coach is one of the other GMs, but who handling Raw? See, Carmela de Cesar is coming up to the main roster and going to be the general manager of NXT, which is, as I mentioned, the new brand that I'm figuring up, fitting together. And Carmella is going to feud with. I mean, Carmella's not going to feud with anybody. Carmella's got her own thing going on, but Carmella has NXT, and she's curious who's going to be managing Raw because since um, Paul Heyman stepped down, which goes back to my intention of having Paul step away from the company for a bit, that Paul would step down and have, Paul would step down and somebody else would take control of Raw. Initially, it was going to be Vicky Guerrero, but Vicky Guerrero is paired up with JBL. I know it's an odd combination, but it's a business deal. I mean, how many of Vicky's, how many of Vicky's things were odd combinations? How many of Vicky's situations were odd combinations? You know what I mean? Randy gets the chance to celebrate. We're pushing up on 300 minutes. We are pushing up on 300 minutes. This is not good. This is not good. Not good whatsoever. How am how am I running out of time on a 4-hour pay-per-view? You know what I mean? Like, how am I running out of time on a 4-hour pay-per-view? $10 minutes, 15. Michael Cole and Taz. 20-man battle royal. That's that. That's that. This can go under 10 minutes because it's just it hasn't really been built up. It's one of those filler matches that I put on. I mean, the problem is, you know what? Let's throw in JBL and Chavo because that's the other match that needs to be here. Chavo gets the win. And then we're going to calm the crowd with this match. I mean, it is a 4-hour show, so I mean, maybe maybe it would benefit me to make a two-day WrestleMania. Night one and night two. Maybe it would benefit me to take a page at a real WWE's book and do a 2-night WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Oh wait, this is that, so it doesn't need to. Um, it doesn't need to have that. Everything is accounted for. Everything is accounted for. But we gotta book some shit on the pre-show. We gotta book some shit on the pre-show because, like I said, some people are gonna be pissed off if they're not booked on WrestleMania. You know, some of the people are going to be pissed off if they ain't booked on WrestleMania. I'll even throw Dawn Marie in, even though Dawn's not supposed to be an active wrestler. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, so we'll make it a 15 woman. Luscious, Victoria. And then Kevin Kelly, Joey Styles, and... Alright, Larry Sweeney. Pre-show... Wait, what? What the heck just happened? Did I... Did I X out instead of save it? I think I X'd out instead of... I think I X'd out instead of saving it. Well, who's not... Shane is me, so Shane doesn't matter. Lawler's good. I think honestly just another 15-man Battle Royal would not hurt. And just peeling out everybody that's not booked on the big show. I mean, technically Luther Reigns doesn't need to be a part of this. But I think I actually need to grab 20. Because Ricky Steamboat should be included in one of the matches as a road agent. So he won't need to be included as... Stan Lane still employed? Nope. Who's not booked? Hugo Savinovich. Howard. And Robbie Dowler. I think that's it. I could be wrong, but I think that's it. I think a majority of these guys don't need to be booked. I think they'd still be pissed off, but to say I have to book every single person here would be a little ludicrous to me. Um, it would be a little ludicrous to me that I have to book everyone. So, I mean, maybe I'll just throw... I'll throw Shawn Spears and Johnny Nitro a bone. And let's see what we got for WrestleMania. Because if I booked everybody, then we would have about 10 shows on the pre-show. And every match... I mean, we knew Lita would win, but either way. Probably could have given her the Mae Young Classic. I could have given that to the Mae Young Classic. William Regal. Let me just pop over here and... Joey Styles, and let's just pop up to Lillian Garcia. Because Lillian was not working one of the matches, so... good. A 90 opening for WrestleMania with Booker T and Jeff Hardy winning a unification match to get rid of the International Television Championship. Rhino and Ric Flair. A 90. Rhino won. I had Ric Flair. I asked Ric Flair to put over Rhino, and Ric Flair said no. But Rhino beat Ric Flair up in Canada as we are doing WrestleMania in Quebec. But back-to-back 90s for WrestleMania 22, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Steph all appeared to announce the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal starting now, as we honor one of the legends that helped pave the way for World Wrestling Entertainment to get to the position that they're in at WrestleMania, and a sold-out crowd at the Stade Percival Molson Coliseum in Montreal, Quebec. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and the Big Show is the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner. The Battle Royal also included the likes of Batista, John Cena, Kevin the Monster Randleman, Goldberg, Christian, Billy Kidman, the Dudley Boys, Charlie Haas, Mark Henry. The list goes on and on and on and on and on, but an 82 for a Battle Royal is pretty solid in my opinion. And Rob Van Dam, Triple H, Batista, so on and so forth. But the Big Show is the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner, and he gets the ever so elusive WrestleMania moment. Rene Dupree talking up his inevitable finish with his rivalry with Dusty Rhodes. America's Most Wanted get their WrestleMania moment. May get their WrestleMania moment tonight against Tully Blanchard Incorporated, as Gregory Helms falls to the Big Red Monster Kane, as Kane wins the Intercontinental Championship in another solid 88 segment rating. Hogan and Michaels. 90. Hogan and Michaels. Hogan. Shawn Michaels gets a 90 out of the Hulkster. Kurt Angle tells Luther Reigns he's staying behind tonight, as Angle will do the main event of WrestleMania. As Angle comes off winning the Royal Rumble, the one thing Kurt Angle never did in his career in real WWE was win the Royal Rumble. And Kurt Angle will do that tonight. He is taking his Royal Rumble victory to fight Chris Jericho in the main event of WrestleMania. Steve Austin and Paul Heyman, I addressed that earlier. James Storm and Chris Harris are the new WWE Tag Team Champions, defeating Tully Blanchard and Enterprises and becoming Tag Team Champions in the WWE. The Undertaker. We've heard from Sting for the last month. This is the first time that we are hearing from The Undertaker since accepting since accepting the title the match against Sting at WrestleMania. As I talked about earlier, Sting and The Undertaker is usually a match I spend a year building up, but I'm doing it a little differently this time, as they're fighting after only 2 months. And another solid match, Sting and The Undertaker, as Taker keeps his WrestleMania streak going with a victory over the Stinger at WrestleMania 22. Chase Stevens is looking for his WrestleMania moment, and he's with Mean Gene Okerlund, as Mean Gene is talking with Chase Stevens. We talked about this earlier. Chase is talking about how he was in a pre-show battle royal last year, and he never thought that this year he'd be at WrestleMania. He's tired, he's injured, he's sore, he's got a back injury, but he is cruiserweight champion and will not go down without a fight. He is doing whatever it takes to keep this title and be the cruiserweight champion. Chase Stevens defeats Little Guido and keeps his cruiserweight title. As we get a little detour away from WrestleMania, Carmelo de Cesar needs to get repackaged, as she is coming up to be the general manager of NXT with the draft and the advent of a new brand for WWE, a third brand to split up the roster a little bit more. ECW is not returning. It's NXT instead. Randy Orton is hyping up the fact that he was injured last year. He tore his rotator cuff after the Royal Rumble and missed WrestleMania. Triple H and Randy Orton were supposed to have a back and forth last year as Evolution fell apart. But instead of Triple H and Randy Orton, Triple H and Batista had their back and forth, and Batista overwhelmingly won like he did in real life. And Randy Orton was on the shelf until last December, returning and feuding with Kurt Angle off rip. Kurt Angle did not like the fact that Randy Orton was back, and Randy Orton got a victory over Kurt Angle at the Royal Rumble. But Angle got the bigger victory, winning the Royal Rumble and challenging Chris Jericho. But Randy Orton is now challenging Edge for the World Championship at WrestleMania a year after not being here. But Rey Mysterio and TJP retain the tag team titles. Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Triple H tried to offer Batista the opportunity to come back and reform Evolution, put the past behind them, and show that Randy Orton was the weakness. That Randy Orton made a mistake and got weak. I think this is a match that could be done in a little bit down the road, but still a solid matchup. 82. Edge got a 100 being up in Canada. Edge got a 100. He's from Toronto. He's not from Montreal. So I'm in the right province for Edge to lose because we're in Quebec. We're not in Ontario. We were in Ontario for Raw, but we're in Quebec for WrestleMania. But either way, Randy Orton is the new World's Heavyweight Champion. And Randy Orton gets the opportunity for the fireworks to go off, for everything to be a-buzz, as Randy Orton is the new World Champion for the second time in his career. Dusty Rhodes and Rene Dupree have their rivalry come to a head as Dusty Rhodes is able to put together a solid match with Rene Dupree and put over the youngster, as Dusty doesn't have the stamina to go long. Believe me, I tried. And it did its job to bring the crowd back down and allow them to anticipate the main event, Jericho Angle for the world title. JBL, Chavo Guerrero put at stake that if he lost this match, then he would be JBL's assistant for a month and join the business deal, and that maybe JBL would be able to teach him something about business if Chavo lost, but Chavo won to really put an end to this rivalry, because I wanted as minimal amount whatever. It did its job. As minimal amount as it was, but this is the tag team division, as I'm also trying to use Molly Holly and Trish Stratus to get Mickey Knuckles and Sonoko Kato over a little bit more, to establish others in the division outside of Trish, Lita, Molly Holly, Tori Wilson, Victoria, yada, yada, yada. I wanted to establish other people, and that's why I'm doing this rivalry involving Knuckles, Kato, Molly, and Trish. But also, with the draft upcoming, I didn't actually do a segment in between, which I should have. That was my mistake. Number two, with the draft upcoming, all the women that were on SmackDown are moving over to Raw, so there will be no women on SmackDown. Some women are going to go down to developmental for more seasoning, because I don't need 15 women on the main roster. So some of them are going to go back down to the main roster, developmental. Some of them are going to stay up, and I'm going to be doing a lot of maintenance on the main roster after WrestleMania because of the draft. But either way, Kurt Angle is world champion again, defeating Chris Jericho in what probably would have been a little bit better of a match if I put a buffer in between. But also, it's a 4-hour crowd, and probably the reason why somebody would say to do a 2-night WrestleMania instead of a 1-night WrestleMania. But either way, an 88 for WrestleMania is actually pretty good. And I'm actually going to give it to Ric Flair, Undertaker, and The Big Show, because Ric Flair put over Rhino without me even asking him to, probably because we were in Canada and it was Rhino's hometown. And The Big Show won, winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Undertaker and Sting did not fail to live up to expectations. I probably should have given it to Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan, but that's beside the point. Either way, I think next year I may actually consider doing a 2-night WrestleMania like they do in real life. But either way, I hope you enjoyed my booking of WrestleMania. And let me know down in the comment section below if you would have done things differently. If you did, let me know. If you would, then let me know what you would have done differently. I agree, Kane. I agree, Dave. I don't necessarily agree. Sean Spears, I should invest a little bit more in. You're right. But 1.3 million, a lot of buys. Successful show and a successful recording. I will see you in the next video.